the Eric Allen Show, founder of Eric Allen Media, and I help people launch podcasts. So I've been podcasting since 2017. Interviewed a little over 500 people, including Ed Milet, Brad Lee, Tim Story, John Gordon, David Meltzer, Jim the Rookie Morris, and so many others. Mark Batterson, pastors involved and things like that. Dan Caldwell from Tap Out. Just been blessed to speak to some really cool people over the last 7 years, 8 years, and so I believe everybody should have a podcast. If you're in marketing or if you have a business or you're an entrepreneur, you should have a podcast. It's free marketing. So I help people launch podcasts and nail down those big names. And I do content creation for brands. So I work with about 50 different brands total so far around doing UGC type videos or how-to videos or training type videos. And that's like my passion, right? It's not my full-time gig, but I absolutely love podcasting, connecting with people, and being able to do content creation for brands. It fires me up. Oh, thank you. It's a long time, a lot of practice, man. A lot of practice. I would say, I used to, when I first started podcasting, I had no idea what I was doing. I was in a walk-in closet. I had horrible lighting. I was looking like the webcam camera on my laptop, right? And I was running a 100-foot extension around the bed into the walk-in closet just so I could have power in there, right? And used to just stare at the screen, right? Never looked into the camera. 500 plus interviews later, I've gotten a little bit better, right? And still always trying to learn. And now I'm actually more in the public speaking space. So I've done a couple of public speaking events, spoken for about 120 people last year, and now just trying to move away from the mic and do more public speaking as well. Thank you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, I love it, man. Publish a podcast. All I can say, man, I'm so fired up when people decide to launch podcast, man. So I'm excited. Let me know when it drops, man. Yeah, totally. So I think for me, it was having to get over the mindset of that victim mentality that I think a lot of men hold on to, right? Like, oh, this happened in my past, or my parents were this, or somebody did this to me, and holding on to that. I spent about 10 years of my life just really wandering the world, doing drugs and fulfilling this void of joy and happiness from drugs and alcohol and women and things like that. And it was like this empty fill, this void that couldn't be filled, right? I wasn't happy about anything. And, I think that was probably the biggest struggle in my life was those 10 years, right? If you listen to my story, I came from the broken home. I had to fight my mom's boyfriend. I was 13. I had to beat him in the head with a cast iron pan. I was in jail at 18. I moved 21 times between the ages of 18 and 21, bankrupted 21, right? Crazy addictions to drugs and alcohol. Lived in, the music industry. I worked for Universal Records for a year and lived that rock star lifestyle without being a rock star, right? So there was like this 10-year period where I just really struggled and not knowing who I was and not realizing that I was loved, right? And it wasn't until somebody had, now I grew up in a Christian church, quote unquote, went to church, right? But didn't come to know Jesus until I was about 24 years old. And for me, all started because one person asked me to go to a church event while I was working at Starbucks, right? And I went to that church event, and it was this girl had asked me, and I went down there and went, and I just felt like this Holy Spirit moment, right? Of God saying, dude, you're going down this path. But it was at that time, I wasn't really ready to walk away from my worldly desires that I was living in. But it was like a month later, it was Easter 2004. I woke up after a night of partying, and I just felt God saying, dude, you're going to go down a path that's going to end your life if you don't start making some changes. And I quit cold turkey, drinking, drugs, cigarettes, everything in that moment. And I just gave my life to Jesus right there in my buddy's basement, surrounded by probably 15 other dudes. I felt so alive in that moment. And I just remember texting that girl and said, "Hey, thanks for inviting me to that church event. Maybe I'll see you at the store sometime." And then 11 months later, her and I were married, and we celebrate 20 years of being married next month. It was a cool journey, man. And I think a lot of times when people give their life to Jesus, and I think that's they just think that's this instant change. For me, I instantly had this mindset change, right? But I still had that environment of my buddies going around partying. I had to figure out, do I want to continue to do that? Or do I have to have a conversation with my buddies and say, hey, I am not healthy. I need to step away from this. And that's the route that I went. And so, in order for me to make that change in my life, to step away from the drugs and alcohol and the worldly desires, I actually had to find people that were living the life that I wanted to live. And so, I found men in the church that we were going to that lived that life. They were great dads. They were great husbands, right? Had great jobs. They were supporting their family. And I just took them out to like Starbucks way pre-podcast days and was like, I want to interview you, man. I want to understand, like, how are you living the way that you're living? Because that's the way that I want to live my life, right? So I had to change the environment to make that change in my life. It was uncomfortable, but if you want to make any change in your life, you've got to get uncomfortable, man. Like, yeah. Mm. Yeah, man, I love this question. I think for me, I want to get healthier. I want to start working out more. I've been working for a job that I've been working really early morning hours. I get up early anyways. I usually wake up at 3:45 or 4 a.m. every day, but I haven't been able to put my health first like I would like to. So I'm really looking forward to stepping into that better and being more healthy. Watch what I'm eating, working out more. But I think on top of that, like that's the health side of it. But professionally, I'm excited for my podcast to continue to roll out. I talk with men about their journey with Jesus who also happen to be entrepreneurs, world changers, and success minded people. And so we talk a little bit about Jesus. We talk about some money. We talk about marketing. We talk about sales, right? But it all comes down to like, for me, it's the foundation of Jesus that helps you excel in all of those areas, right? And so, really excited about that. I have a book that I've written. It's in editing right now. It's going to come out this year, so super stoked about that. It took me a while to write it. It's actually the second version. I wrote the first version 2 years ago, scratched the whole thing, started over, and this is it, right? So, really excited to drop the brand new book. It'll drop in 2025. Yeah, it'll be Amazon. We'll put it all over the place. Yeah. Come on. Oh, that's awesome, man. Sure. Mm, yeah. Come on, man. That's awesome, dude. Congrats to you, brother. That's awesome. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I think what I've realized over the last year is I've utilized AI quite a bit to actually help me with time efficiency, right? And so I used to do a lot of editing of my podcast, and I still edit my shows. I don't have a team that does it. I edit all my shows myself. I do all of the marketing and social media. All of that is all myself. But I started to utilize AI quite a bit over the last year in regards to editing, producing clips for me, right? And then I just usually just will look it over to make sure it looks good, right? But I edit my shows in iMovie for free on my MacBook Pro, and for me that works, right? Like I'm able to do that, but I'm able to grab the timestamp from the AI clip that I like and drop that in as a trailer. So it's saved me a ton of time to be able to utilize AI in releasing my shows now. Even scheduling, podcasts and things like that have been way easier because I just schedule it, typically a week in advance. So I utilize that tool a lot, and I just think that if you are have, like I said before, if you're an entrepreneur or a business or anything like that, and you don't have a podcast, you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving impact on the table just because you never know who's going to be listening to that episode. And so I think you have to have a podcast if you want to excel or make an impact, period, right? And so whether you're just starting out or you're just continuing to or continuing to push out your show, consistency is key, right? And just don't quit. And so I think utilizing AI, being consistent with my releases of my podcast, and really staying focused, like for me priority wise, is making sure that my book comes out, but consistently making the podcast drop every single Friday. And I think challenges that I've ran into is just time wise, right? Like I need to structure my time, and I've tried to different methods over the years, but I've found I think what works best for me in my current season of life. And so I use a post-it note, which is really simple, but at the end of the day, before I leave my desk, I literally will write on there everything that I have to do first thing in the morning. So that when I get up to my desk, I have my quiet time with Jesus. I'm worshiping. I read my Bible, right? That's a non-negotiable thing that I do every single day. But as soon as that's over, I look at my post. Okay, I know exactly what I need to do today. I'm not trying to scroll through social media and go, oh, and then I get lost and with everyone else's post and get jealous about them doing this and I'm not doing that, right? No, I've got my post-it note that I stick to every single day. And so I think the challenge for me was that time trying to structure it, but that just a simple post-it note has helped me to really have a good, better time at structuring my day. Mm. Yes. So I think where for me, over probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, probably, I started really focusing on just being grateful. And it starts as soon as I open my eyes. I'm 45 years old, right? So as soon as I open my eyes, I immediately go, thank you, Jesus, for another day to see and hug and hold my family. Now I got to say it quietly so I don't wake up my wife, but audibly I'm saying that out loud. I'm like, Jesus, thank you so much, man. I'm excited because I get to see my family that day, like immediately, right? And so for me, that's a win. I woke up today and then I make my bed. There's 2 wins in 15 seconds. My brain's already firing up like we're celebrating because I got 2 wins before I even got to the bathroom, right? Like I am already celebrating wins. And so for me, that's that initially I have to start with that gratitude. And then when I get up to my office, for me, I turn on worship music and I'll just sit there and pray for a good, I don't know, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes. It really kind of depends on the day, but 10, 5, 15 minutes, somewhere in there. But every day I have to draw close to God, listen to worship and pray. And then for me, last May, I realized I hadn't read the whole Bible in a really long time. Like I'd read chunks of it, but I decided I was going to start back in Genesis last May, and so I'm on this journey right now, reading through the entire Bible. And so I'll read a chapter or two every morning, and then I'm reading a devotional right now called "My Utmost for His Highest," and I read that every day live on my YouTube channel in the morning. And it's just a quick one pager that I can hopefully inspire folks with. But yeah, that quiet time, it's a non-negotiable for me. It doesn't matter if I'm on vacation or business trip or at home. I'm gonna have that quiet time every single day. Are you talking about like what books am I reading? So I like My Utmost for His Highest. It's actually just a devotional book that my wife had this book, and I thought, you know what, I haven't read it, so I'm going to read it this year. And um, books that I read this year by Mark Batterson. He's the pastor of a church out in Washington, D.C. I love his book. Probably a life changing book for me is In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day. right? Like if you haven't read that book, I would highly recommend you go pick that book up. It will be life changing. He followed that book up with Chase the Lion. And then also, I just grabbed his new book. He was actually on my podcast. It was so cool to be able to interview him. But we talked about his new book called A Million Little Miracles. And it just talks about like every day we are experiencing miracles. We are rotating, on this thing called Earth, right? Like it's spinning millions of miles away, but we don't actually notice that, right? Like it's all a miracle that happens. And so, Mark Batterson is probably my favorite guy to talk about because he's such a great author, and all of his books, obviously being a pastor, he's talking about how Jesus is related to just normal life, but he just writes in such a great way that it makes it relatable to anybody. And those three books have really been life changing for me. They are, yeah, for sure. Mm. I love this question because it's so important. It's two words that I'll say, and it's don't quit. Things are going to get tough when you're an entrepreneur. Sometimes you eat like entrepreneur, or sometimes you eat like kings, and sometimes you eat like top ramen, right? Like it just kind of depends, right? But if you're in a business or an entrepreneur, or even in business, if you're an employee, even sometimes you're going to run into those months where it's money's tight, and you're going to run into things where it's just a string of stuff that's not happening right. And for me, my recommendation is don't quit. But I would also pray that hopefully that person out there struggling knows Jesus, and if they don't, man, I would say go know Jesus, right? And you don't need to go anywhere. You can do it right now, like as you're listening to this. But the one thing that has really helped me is surrounding myself with people that are living life that I want to live. And so when you're struggling and you're going through those challenges, if I have that tribe of men around me, whether that's from a Bible group or a church group or a business group, but people that are living the life that I want to live. Now, there's a but to that because, and it's a big but. And I say that because there's a lot of people that live the life that I want to live. They have the house, they have the money, but morally, they don't align with my values, right? And so I don't want to follow guys that are just out there for the money. I actually want to follow and surround myself with people that are aligned with my values and my morals that are also living that life, right? That are also able to make an impact through not only financial, but for their time, and they're great husbands and they're great fathers, right? Those are the people that I want to surround myself with. So if you're in a challenge in your life and you're struggling, go find those people that align with your morals, that align with your values. Get uncomfortable, put yourself in those spaces where you can be around them. I interviewed Ed Milet on my podcast, and he told me, hey, look, if you're walking around at 80 degrees, go find guys that are walking around at 120 degrees, because just being in their presence is going to lift you up. It's going to motivate you to be a better person and to make a bigger impact. And so, man, if you're struggling, get out of that by getting uncomfortable and surround yourself with people that are living the life that you want. But I think the number one thing on that, if you're struggling, is just pray, man. Get to your knees and pray, and Jesus will open that door, man. Mm, mm, mm. Absolutely. Hey, do you care if I just pray for you right now, man? Oh, Dinah, I just pray, God, over Dinah right now. I pray you touch his body right now. We are countries apart, God. I pray that you would touch him right now, that you would heal him, that you would give him grace, that you'd give him mercy, that he would feel your positivity, God, and that he'd feel your guidance and your love guiding him in his life, that you would bring the right people into his life that can motivate him and inspire him. But he knows that he can look at his Bible and look up and close his eyes and pray to you, and you're the one person that can be the major major motivator and inspiration person in his life, God. And I pray that you would just fill his spirit, God, with peace and joy and happiness, and continue to give him strength, God. And Lord, I'm thankful for this conversation. I'm thankful for the impact that he's making on his listeners, his readers, God, and his network, God. And I pray as he teaches that he's able to make an impact on those that he's teaching. And I thank you for this moment, Lord. Man, I think everything happens for a reason. I'm so excited that I was able to join this podcast today. So thank you. And I pray blessings over Dinard today, right now, Lord. Thank you. Amen. No, man, I appreciate being flexible. I'm sorry I went back and forth on the time, man. It was just I was trying to get lined up. So thank you for being flexible. I appreciate it. I am definitely a guest that will share this out. So whether it's a written or a video or audio, whatever, let me know. Please share, tag me, email it to me. I will share it out. I want to try to get you some folks too. Cool. Oh man, I love that offer. I actually don't have anything right now on the table right now. But I'm kind of just doing my podcast thing, which is easy. I kind of do that, weeks in advance. So I'm ahead of everything on that side of things. But man, I appreciate that offer, dude. But right now, I'm in a good spot, man. So I really appreciate it, though. I do. Yeah, it's just erikallenmedia.com. So ERIK. And then the YouTube channel, Erik Allen Media, is the channel on there. But yeah, I do the daily devotional reading of this on my podcast. I drop a motivational video every day, and then my podcast drops every Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific. So brand new episode. Actually, this morning just dropped on a guy who does tech sales and helps Christians stop living, the lukewarm lifestyle and get into tech sales, and helps train them on how to that. So it's a great episode. Yeah. Do you want me to just message it to you on LinkedIn? Cool. Yeah, I'll send you all the links on LinkedIn, man, and then that way you can just use them as you need to. And if you need anything else from me, just let me know. I, yeah, all good, man. I appreciate it. Have an awesome weekend. We'll talk soon. Yeah. Bye bye. Hey, thanks for checking it out. That was just me doing a podcast interview with someone really cool. Always enjoy doing interviews. And so hopefully you enjoyed just the one sided podcast interview, but hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for checking it out.